IG.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, welcome to IG Live. All right, all right, all right. Okay, so again, that was my little short intro, but I will now give the floor to you, Brother Long, so you can give an appropriate intro on yourself. And then I'll do a short intro on myself, and then we will also tell you a little bit our conversation today, which will be quite concise, only an hour long. And we're happy to take a couple of questions. I'm a holistic practitioner. We have a Taoist healer. Keep your ears open and your eyes locked in. All the natural healing and the remedies coming to you now. Hey, Kalipotek. All right, go ahead, Brother Long. The stage
Okay,
is
thank you.
yours.
All right, so the first thing we had talked about discussing was a little bit about our training. And so my training is primarily from two individuals. My first teacher in the healing arts was Dr. Frost. I went through an Afrocentric, excuse me, I went through an Afrocentric rites of passage in 2008 to learn what did it mean to be a man of African descent. And one of our teachers, our teacher for holistic health, was Dr. Frost. And Dr. Frost was the first Black man that I had ever met with a PhD. And he had two PhDs, plus a lot of master's degrees, plus he was a Navy SEAL. And he was a mentor to a lot of the doctors at the Cleveland Clinic. So I was so impressed with Doc that I got his card and I got his number, and I started to go to his home as often as I could and study with him. And he introduced me to traditional Chinese medicine, the branch of it known as Qigong or the energy medicine. And then I found myself in need of a new teacher and I didn't know where to go. So I started with Dr. Frost's book. And the foreword of his book was written by someone named Mantak Chia. So when I looked up Mantak Chia, I wound up discovering that this was where Dr. Frost had gotten a lot of his Taoist and Qigong information from. So I began to study with Mantak Chia myself. I studied about 40 of his books over 2 years. And then I met with him in America and I spent 3 weeks with him learning the 5,000-year-old ancient Chinese secret Taoist self healing techniques. I then followed Master Chia to Thailand and spent 5 more weeks with him, including 3 weeks of living in absolute darkness to replicate living in the cave. And we learned all types of wonderful things on how to help people perform self healing miracles and how to tap into the intelligence within your body and cause your body to heal itself.
That is a short, brief history on the incredible life lived thus far by our brother here, Brother Long. I am Lisa. I am a holistic practitioner, licensed and practicing through the Czech Institute. I'm also a yoga teacher and have over 500 hours, nearly 1,000 hours of yoga teacher training in various modalities. I came to a way of living before I came into the educational side of learning to be a holistic practitioner, meaning I was practicing a life of holistic living in the embodiment of holistic living to the best of my knowledge before I actually went and enrolled at the academy with the Czech Institute. And that was thanks to a mentor that I met nearly 20 years ago when I was living in London, England. And at the time, the mentor that I met introduced me to a whole new way of living. It was a complete paradigm, not shifter, but a paradigm, we'll say, annihilator, because basically everything had to fall apart in order for me to rebuild again. Meaning that I was able to see the world through a new lens, view nutrition and food differently, our reason for going to bed at a particular time, and the necessity to sleep, obviously breath work and air, and the compelling argument for how not only breath is needed to stay alive, but how the breath is designed to also purify, detoxify, and help us to calm and self-soothe. So it's a tool that can be used for healing. It's also a tool that can be used for soothing. And so Brother Long and I, when we had decided to begin this series, decided that we were going to start with the breath simply because of its profound impact on both of those things, the ability to heal the body, heal the mind, heal the emotions, but also the ability to help cope and self-soothe and calm. One might argue that there are a few skill sets more important than that, uh, given this time that we're living in, which is very, very interesting. And I believe that we all have something to contribute to this time that we're living in. And so um, perhaps that will be a compelling reason for those of you that are watching on the live to stay along with us for this journey, and those of you that are catching the replay to stay all the way till the end so that you can take as much from this information and knowledge as you can get.
Very good. The next thing that we like to share is a quote of the day. And this quote of the day comes from Lao Tzu, the founder of Taoism. And it comes from his book, The Secret Teachings of Lao Tzu, which is what Dr. Frost introduced me to. I got introduced to the secret teachings before I was ever aware of the normal teachings. And so in the second paragraph or page, Lao Tzu says to take care of those who are deserving. Also, and equally, take care of those who are not. When you extend your virtue in all directions without discriminating, your feet are firmly planted on the path that returns to the Tao. I first heard that like 16 years ago, and I'll never forget it because as soon as I heard those words, I knew I had to become a Taoist because the type of character and loving naturedness it takes to embody that was a challenge for me to grow my character to that quality. And I saw that as something I just had to get involved in. Anything that was going to make me become so much better of a person, I just had to do it.
Um, for me, ever since hearing that quote from you, it's been I've been marinating on it some more. My initial response is to be very emotional when I hear this particular quote, and I'll say it still makes me emotional. And I would like to also echo this last sentiment that you've just said, which is it really does it sort of triggers or awakens, perhaps is a better term, a desire to simply do better. Throughout my Czech training, and through the Czech training, we borrow from many different traditions and gurus, wisdoms, etc. Sometimes they're religious, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're philosophical, etc. And so one of the things that we touch upon through our Czech training is Osho and his teachings and the three levels of love. Now, I believe that Paul Chek added the fourth, if I'm not mistaken. But needless to say, when I hear that, it's a reminder that I've not gone through all the expressions of love, the last layer, the last stage. I believe it is four, actually, all four from Osho being unconditional love, which is the love that we experience from our maker, from the one source. However you refer to her, whether you call her Mother Nature, whether you call her God, or whether you call her Allah. But let's be clear, it is a her. I'm just kidding. um, so whomever it is that you pray to, whomever it is that you believe you came from, whichever womb it was that you believe you exited from, um, that until we get to that level of love, we are still sort of practicing in many ways a more childish form of love. Oftentimes getting stuck in that middle ground, which is known as the sex and violence kind of love, which is like, I'm going to do something for you and you're going to do something for me, but I'm only going to do that for you because I know what's coming back to me, kind of a thing. And that's, if I'm being completely honest, I think where my where I'm currently at, and I'm still working towards that other level. So it's profound and it's humbling to be reminded of the work that's still in front of me, and yet it's also an honor to know that that is something that perhaps honor is not the word. It's it's beautiful to know that that's somewhere I can grow to, that that is a branch that I can, eventually that I'll be able to grasp and to experience. And in some ways, we can say that we've even some people would say that they've experienced that for their children and their parents, and maybe that's true. But we've also seen those relationships be severed at times. So it's hard to know if we've actually really fully ascended all the way to that top tier of love, that unconditional love that doesn't require anything in return, and is truly just a gift from our heart.
And love is also the key ingredient to access the healing power of the body. Love becomes a force that we cultivate, and we learn how to create more love within our being. And then we condense, transform, and multiply this loving energy. And the vibration of love is able to trigger our body's natural healing response in a seemingly miraculous way.
Amen. On that note, I will again offer the floor to you to begin our presentation. I'll let you introduce it.
Very good. So today we wanted to start by talking about air. In the Tao, we have what they call the three treasures of life. The first treasure is air, because without air, you can only live for a few minutes. And then the second treasure is water, because without water, you can only live for a few days to weeks. And then the third treasure is food, because without food, you can only live for a few weeks to months. So these are the three treasures of life. The first one we want to talk about is air. And so the thing that I want to highlight about air is the more of a scientific aspect of it, realizing that in the air, there's this oxygen. And what you need to do is get the oxygen out of the air and into your blood, because the oxygen is going to be very important for the maintaining of your health. But what happens is we don't use our lungs properly or all the way. You have three different areas of your lungs, and we only breathe with the smallest third. So, for example, if you were to tell people to place your hand on your chest and then take a deep breath, most people's hands in their chests would move. The problem with that is your lungs are trapped in your rib cage. So when you take a deep breath and your chest rises, your lungs are trying to go up and expand through your rib cage, and they can't. So what happens is your lungs don't get full of oxygen. Only the top third and a third of your lungs get filled. So what happens is, as the blood is coming in to your lungs to get the oxygen, the materials to take to the body to do the healing, there is no oxygen there for the blood to get. Instead of having oxygen there, you got all that poison gas or that carbon monoxide. And then that wind up circulating through your body instead of the oxygen. So if all you learn how to do is to get more oxygen and to increase the oxygen content of your body, that in and of itself will have a dramatic impact on your health and wellness outcomes. Now, the problem is this: when you inside of your lungs are these little tiny cells that we see called alveoli. And something just happened. Can you still hear me, sister? Am I still with you? Okay. So inside your lung are these alveoli cells. And the oxygen goes into these little air sacs, and that's where your blood takes it from. But after 30 or 40 years of not breathing properly, not utilizing your air sacs, the air sacs begin to deteriorate. So now, even if you learn how to get more oxygen into your body might not be able to process it because your alveoli are destroyed and are not functioning. So one of the first things we have to learn how to do is to learn how to begin healing and repairing your alveoli, healing and repairing the sacs inside of your lung cells so that when you bring more oxygen into the lungs, that oxygen can actually be processed and absorbed by your blood. And then we also have to learn how to actually fill up the entire lung apparatus and to utilize all three areas of the lungs instead of just for one. And so that is the first thing that I would like to share concerning air.
Yeah, so again, I would like to just remind people that the breath, in addition to being able to remove toxins, remove pollution out of both the lungs and the body, is also a method for us to relax, to initiate the rest and digest, right, in the parasympathetic nervous system. So if you consider that oftentimes we are breathing shallowly, which is also, by the way, a stress response, it's an indication that we're also wearing ourselves out. It's more wear and tear on the body. It requires the heart to beat more quickly. It requires us to be our pupils to be dilated. We're not able to then employ use of our bladder, etc., because we're essentially putting our body, or our bodies believing anyways, that we are being chased by a lion or a bear, something in the natural kingdom. And so those things, the reflexes, the dilation of the eyes, the muscle contraction, all the rest of that is designed to help us, you know, to help keep us alive and to help us move away from danger. But in living in that, right, we're creating a chronic stress response, which then releases cortisol in the body, which then leads to a um, a level of anxiety, a level of panic, and just the inability to rest, the inability to properly digest, the inability to take a breath and think more rationally. It also puts us into our left brain hemisphere, right? The fight or flight, exactly. So, by being able to master your breath, by being able to control the breath and manipulate it, you can actually control not only your thoughts, but your emotions. Imagine if I told you that you could actually control your thoughts and emotions, that you actually have a say in that matter. The first step to doing that, to controlling your thoughts and emotions, is in fact through manipulation of the breath, through creating a breath that is more spherical and circular, more diaphragmatic, right? So you want to feel the expansion of the rib cage, east and west. You also want to expand the body front and back, right? You want to be able to fill all the corners of the torso with this life affirming breath. That then can also start to slower your heart rhythm down, because oftentimes the breath rhythm matches the heart rhythm and the other way around, right? And in that, you're then able to do what? You can swallow. You're able to then reduce the thought trains, right? So you can think more clearly, more rationally. As a matter of fact, by manipulation of the breath, you can actually switch from the left brain hemisphere to the right brain hemisphere. So there's a lot to be said for mastering this tool. I would say that if you master this tool, you're likely to then be able to master things like nutrition and hydration and sleep with a lot less effort, simply by learning to master your breath. And it begins first and foremost by breathing deeply, by breathing comprehensively, and expelling as much as you take in, you must then push out. So there needs to be an equal exchange. As deep as the inhale is and as expansive it is, it has to be met then with an appropriate amount of exhale and exhalation, because that's the toxicity, that's the CO2 leaving the body. And that's precisely what's been missing. Keeping high levels of CO2 in the body is precisely another way to create an environment that is more acidic. And in that, we also become a host then to disease and a lack of well being. Back to you,
And
Brother.
so and so that leads right into one of our next topics, which is what we can call the chi belt and the chi girdle. Um, it was just said that you have to expel the proper amount of air as well as bring in the proper amount of air. And so we learn to do that by creating what we call the chi belt and then the chi girdle. So the chi belt happens when you inhale and you push out all four sides of your abdomen. Okay. You have the front of your abdomen, you have the sides of your abdomen, and then you have the back. And you're able to inhale and force all four sides of this abdomen out. And when you do that, there's a lot of things going on inside of your body. But you feel that there's a belt wrapping around you. Okay. And so there's a process where you learn how to take control of your abdominal muscles and you learn how to take control of your diaphragm so that you can create this chi belt where it's like there's an empty beach ball inside of your belly. And when you blow up the beach ball, all four, five, six, it expands in all six directions simultaneously. And so you learn how to recreate that in your belly, in your abdomen, so that when you inhale, you can fill up all of the areas of your lungs, as well as cause a lot of things to happen in your body, which we'll talk about at the next point. But then once you can create your chi belt and you can inhale and force that pressure out, the next thing you do is exhale and try to suck your belly button in to touch your spine, which is something that most people never do. Normally, you just inhale and then you relax. And by relaxing, you'll automatically expel a little bit of air, but there's still going to be a lot of air left in there. To get that air out, you need to suck that belly button into the spine, which most people never do. And by sucking the belly button into the spine, it's like you're putting on a girdle. And that is going to cause a lot of things to happen to your internal organs that we'll talk about here soon. But the aspect of it we're talking about now is that doing this will force all of the poison gas out of your lungs so it doesn't get picked back up by your blood and so that you have room for the fresh oxygen to come in.
Yeah, and I would just like to also, for any anatomy buffs that are watching either live or coming for the replay, that the chi belt, as we know it anatomically, is actually the transverse abdominis. The relevance of this muscle is that it's actually your natural belly belt. So for all of the products that are on the market today, promising to quote unquote train your waist and make it really teeny tiny, or provide support for our heavy lifters in the gym who feel like they need the support of a belly belt in essence to sort of help stiffen the spine. I'm here to tell you that actually these products are mimicking something that you already have that's sitting right underneath your layer of skin, and that's called your transverse abdominis, also known as the TVA. This makes up part of the inner core unit, right, which also includes the oblique muscles as well as the rectus abdominis. The rectus abdominis would be the six pack that you're seeing on the monitor there, which is oftentimes a muscle that most people tend to want to work on because aesthetically it makes you look fit. It gives you a great deal of confidence. And as important as the rectus abdominis is, the transverse abdominis is its, you could say, is its big brother in that it comes even before the rectus abdominis insofar as the ability to provide support throughout the spinal column primarily is coming from the transverse abdominis when it is actually utilized. So how do you utilize the transverse abdominis? How do you actually engage it? One of the ways to do that is, as Brother Long mentioned, is as you're expelling the air, the gas, pulling the belly button in towards the spine, but then pulling the genitals in slightly up. So for the men, that means the testicles, drawing them in slightly. And for the women, that means doing a Kegel. The tightening of the vaginal wall then helps to also create some firmness around the belly belt, which when you have stability of the belly belt, which you have then is stability of the pelvis and the hips, thereby now restoring stability to the spinal column, which then also stabilizes the shoulder girdle, the neck, and the jaw. So you can see the importance of this belly belt. Now, here's the problem with what's on the marketplace instead of what's in your body. What's on the marketplace will actually inhibit your ability to tune into and activate your own transverse abdominis. And it does that because by applying as little pressure as 3 grams of pressure against your belly belt. So imagine for ladies who are wearing even yoga pants, right, that cover the belly belt, with a little bit of pressure, just a little bit of pressure, 3 grams is all that's needed. And the belly belt does what? Your transverse abdominis starts to push out. And when it pushes out, that's the inhibition of the muscle, meaning that instead of firmness and stability, you're creating now a lack thereof, both firmness and stability. So you want to always keep the belly button exposed underneath your garments, right? So to speak. So you don't want anything that's going over the belly button, and that's going to now deactivate or inhibit the stability that can be provided to you by your belly belt. So what I'm saying to you as a holistic lifestyle coach and an exercise coach, a corrective exercise coach, because that's my specialty, is stay far away from belly belts. And ladies, if you're wearing your your yoga trousers, your pants high and above your belly button, including your high waist jeans, because I know it can be very flattering, uh, please move away from that. Expose your belly button in order to help restore your breath. And I guess what I would say is treat yourself almost like you would treat an infant, although infants actually do know how to sleep correctly. But give yourself the mindset that just like you would train a child to sleep, you're going to need to probably retrain yourself on how to breathe. Many of us lose the ability to breathe correctly after the age of around 7 or 8. Because if you're watching children that are under the age of 7, 8, you'll notice that that belly belt, that lower abdomen expands as they breathe in, and then equally it contracts as they breathe out. This was once natural for us and normal. And now it's something that we unfortunately have to retrain ourselves, or fortunately, you could say, because we have the ability to do that, to retrain and adapt and restore that which was lost. And if you're a person that's healthy, then I would encourage you still to practice your breath work so that you can continue to preserve and enjoy the benefits of being healthy and alive.
Very good. Another point that we want to talk about is what's happening above and below the diaphragm as you're doing this deep abdominal breathing. Understanding that your diaphragm is kind of like a parachute. And as we can see here, your diaphragm is going to separate your heart and your lungs from the rest of your internal organs. And when you inhale and you push your belly out, your organs are what's pressing your belly out. And they're being forced out because your diaphragm is being pulled down. So above your diaphragm, if you look at this skeleton, the space, this upper space is very, very small. So the lungs and the heart are packed into this tight space. But if we were to grab this diaphragm and pull it down, then that's going to greatly increase the amount of space in that chest cavity, which is going to release tension on the heart, making the heart able to pump easier. So every time you take a good deep breath, you're taking some of the stress off of your heart, contributing to your heart health. Simultaneously, it's the dropping down of your diaphragm that creates the space for your lungs to fill up with air. When you're doing shallow breathing or chest breathing and the only thing moving is your chest, there's no diaphragm movement. So there's no pressure coming off of your heart. And there's no space being created for your lungs to fill with air. And then a lot of your organs are resting right up against this diaphragm. Your liver, your spleen, your kidneys, all of these things are underneath that. So when that drops down, it kind of squeezes and wrenches out the organ, like when you have a wet cloth and you twist it and squeeze it. This is how our bodies were designed to maintain and massage our internal organs. Every time you do a good breath, you're supposed to be massaging, squeezing, detoxing, and tonifying your organs with every breath. This is what contributes to them being able to last and function for a very long time. But when you're not properly breathing, you're just breathing with your chest, then your organs are never getting a massage. And whereas your organs are supposed to be massaged and detoxed with every breath, some of us have not given our organs any massage and detox in 20, 30, 40 years. Okay. And this greatly contributes to the deterioration of our organs. Our kidneys fail, our livers fail, our these things fail because all day long we're never taking a single good breath, we're never getting any massage into those organs, and we're depriving them of the oxygen content that they need. So, in addition to all of the benefits that come with breathing, like it was alluded to, I believe it was Otto Warburg who won the Nobel Prize in the 1950s or the 60s. And he won his Nobel Prize because of the research that he did on cancer cells and oxygen. And what he found was that cancer cells have to have a specific type of environment for them to be able to grow and replicate. And if the environment has a high oxygen content, the cancer cells cannot grow and replicate. And so, in addition to everything else we just talked about, keeping your organs toned and functioning, because in the Tao, we want to stay alive for a long time. As long as your organs are functioning and are healthy, you'll stay alive. When your organs stop working, life draws to an end. And so, these are some of the things that are taking place when all you do is learn how to use your belly and your belly button to breathe the right way. Take the pressure off the heart, fill up the lungs with oxygen, massage all the organs, oxygenate the body, get rid of the carbon monoxide, bring in good fresh oxygen. All because you learn how to do chi belt and chi girdle.
Yeah, and so for my fellow Sabians who might be out there who have also studied Dr. Sebi's work and have a bit of understanding when it comes to an alkaline versus an acidic environment, while the breath is equally as important in creating that alkaline environment that you're wanting and seeking. Again, we know from our teachings that when an environment is in fact alkaline, disease simply cannot live in that environment. And so we know that through correct nutrition and hydration, we can do our part to restore alkalinity. But you can also do it very effortlessly and for free 99, might I add, because breath, at least for now, is still free, is to again restore alkalinity through breath work. I would say it's equally as important as your nutrition. And so if you've not tapped into this free modality, well, let this be the time, let this be the year, let this be the moment when you understand that you have a great deal in your say that is in your own well-being. There's a lot that you cannot control that's outside of your control, but when it comes to your own breath, mastery of that, again, as I was alluding to earlier, will master your emotions, will help you to master your thoughts. And think of what that could do for you. Not only could you then truly own your own health and wellness, but you could also then begin to design a life that you truly want to live, a life that is in alignment with your core values, with your joy, so to speak. And so going back to the diaphragm, I just want to add to what Brother Long was saying, that it is in fact a muscle that is designed, yes, to help wring out the organs by virtue of the fact that it comes down and it compresses the organs, and then the pelvic floor comes up, so it compresses from the bottom up. When you bring them two together, what do you have? You have organs, including intestines, that are nicely compressed, which are able to squeeze out toxins. And then you relax that to bring in life force, to bring in air, to move nutrients around, to move blood around. The other thing that we're taught is that through Chinese medicine, whenever there's a blockage in the body is when there's disease in the body, right? So again, this idea of being able to breathe fully and comprehensively not only restores alkalinity, right? It removes toxins, which thereby does what? It reduces inflammation in the body, and it gets information flowing and moving again. through virtue of your breath, which is transporting not just oxygen, but actual nutrients and information, then you're able to bring back health or preferably maintain health. What was the saying, Brother Long? You said an ounce of, was it a,
And an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
and so what I'm saying is you are empowered to heal yourself. For as much as we enjoy going to the masseuse to have our muscles relaxed and massaged on, you can give your very own organs, which are conspiring to keep you alive every single minute of every single day, the opportunity to take rest and respite, to reduce toxic load, to be nourished, and to continue to work at full potential, which is what they were designed to do. And when we don't allow them to do that, they start to lose life, they start to shrink. What you don't use, you lose. Back to you, Brother Long.
Very good. Thank you. The next thing I want to talk about is more so along the spiritual lines of the breath. So far, we've been talking about the science part of it, but then there's also a spiritual component to it. And something just came to my mind. I don't know if it means anything to anybody or not, but the word spirit in both the Old and the New Testament, although it's different languages that they come from, in both the Hebrew and the Greek, the word spirit translates to breath. And so there's something very, very spiritual about breath and about breathing. So in the air, there's more than just oxygen. There's this healing energy in the air as well. In the Indian systems, they call this energy prana. In the Taoist system, we call this energy chi. This is the energy that contributes to your nervous system's energy. It's called nerve force energy. And a big part of your body healing itself is that your nervous system has to have enough juice in the batteries for the healing to take place. If your energy levels in your battery are low, then your body won't have access to the energy it needs to heal and repair you. So if you learn how to do nothing else other than increase the amount of nerve force you have in your body for your nervous system to work with, just that increase in nerve force alone is going to have tremendous effects on your health and wellness outcomes. So the question is, how do we plug our battery in to charge it up? Okay. And there's several different ways to do that. Um, the way that we're discussing now is how to charge your batteries through the air that surrounds you. So you have to become conscious and aware that there is this prana, there is this chi all around you. And the way you can visualize the chi is like a snowstorm, snow being all around you. Some people don't live in places where it snows. In that case, you can imagine if somebody had a handful of glitter and they threw the glitter in the sky and you're seeing all the glitter float. Or some people have looked into a bright light and then you look away and you see all those sparklies. Whichever concept is most comfortable for you, whether you're seeing glitter floating in the sky, whether you're seeing sparklies, or whether you're seeing snow. You want to inhale and see the air coming into your nose, and along with the air, you're breathing in all of the snow. You're breathing in all of the sparklies. You're seeing the glitter ride the wave into your body. And as you inhale the glitter, it goes through your nose and then it travels through your body to your battery. And we call the battery the dantian. It's basically your small intestine, a ball of energy behind your belly button in the middle of your body. You see the snow and the sparklies go into your nose as you inhale through your brain down into something like a water balloon that's sitting behind your navel. And as the sparklies and the snow go into your body and down, and they go into your water balloon behind your water balloon expands as it fills up with the chi. And then when you exhale, you imagine squeezing and compressing all that chi into a ball behind your belly button, like creating a snowball. You get all of this snow and you start to squeeze it into a snowball. Okay. And as you're doing this, breathing slow, concentrating, visualizing the snow gathering and being packed, you will eventually start to feel what you're visualizing. And each time you do this, alternating breath focus, inhale, see the chi going into your nose, gathering in the dantian as it expands. Then you exhale, squeeze and condense the chi into the ball in the dantian. Every time you go through that inhale and exhale, it's like giving your battery one extra percent, 1 extra percent. If you do this all day, every day, your battery can charge very quickly and you'll start seeing changes in your body. If you have some type of problem, you'll notice a change in the problem simply because your body now has more nerve force. Every time you can feel that sparkly coming in, exhale, condense it in, you're adding more and more charge to your battery. And so this is the thing I would like to share about the air.
The only thing that I can think of to add here, which would be appropriate, given this beautiful image that you have provided for us on the screen here of snowfall, is that again, air holds a lot of information, right? There's a lot that is carried in the air and in the oxygen molecule. I was also told early on that taking your walks in cooler temperatures, whether they be in the morning or in the evening or even in the dead of winter, as we're looking at the screen, this is actually a more dense air, and it is the cold air that carries more chi and prana, incidentally. So it's very appropriate that you chose this breath now, excuse me, this image, that the fact that there is more chi, more prana in air that is cold was taught to me initially by my mentor, but I went on to then read some articles. Um, I believe I'm citing, well, I'm not citing anything because I don't have anything in front of me, but I do believe one of the articles I read was from actually from Harvard University that also proved that there was in fact more information, more chi, more prana in cold air, and it tends to weigh a little bit more. The only other thing I wanted to add was that, you know, I guess we could say biologically speaking, we've spoken about the spirit and how it embodies the breath, or is carried through the breath, and we've spoken a bit on anatomy and the various different parts of the body that are required for a full three-part breath, a spherical breath. But biologically, it is oftentimes the breath that we look to confirm proof of life or proof of transition. It is oftentimes the first thing that we look at when a child is born, and oftentimes it's the last thing we view in a person that's transitioning out of their body experience. And so that those two bookmarks, at the beginning and at the end of life, just remind us that throughout our journey here on this planet, the breath accompanies us, and it is a tool for us to utilize for our overall well-being, to improve our quality of life. And again, arguably one of the most important skills that I think that we need today, given the really interesting time that we're living in, is the ability to, again, manage ourselves, manage our thoughts, manage our emotions. manage how we see the world and how we are digesting all of this information that is coming to us at all times of the day and night from all angles. I think one of the best ways to be able to process that is to simply stop, seal the lips, breathe in through the nose, use the filtration system provided to you by the nostrils. So filter the air out through the nose. It doesn't have quite the same impact if you're breathing through the mouth. Of course, if there's a medical reason for why you can't breathe through the mouth, breathing in through the mouth is obviously fine. But we are designed, not but, and at the same time, we are designed to be breathing in through the nose. So if it's available to you, your breath will be your ally, will be um, your your comforter, and it will certainly be your healer and your nourisher if you're able to again close the mouth without locking the jaw. Very calmly start to draw in that life force, that prana, that chi, in through the nostrils to fill and expand the body out as far and wide as you can get it. And then make sure you pull out as much as you've drawn in, because remember, you want balance. For as much as you bring in, you must take out. For as much as you receive, you must give back. Back to you, Brother Long.
And the last topic that I wanted to discuss today is reverse breathing and compression breathing. And so all Taoist practices are supposed to be done through reverse breathing. But reverse breathing can be challenging. So today they normally teach Taoism with abdominal breathing, which is the Buddhist breathing. But the Taoist breathing is actually the reverse. And you naturally do reverse breathing if you're going to do some heavy work. So, for example, if a person's car has stopped and everybody's getting out to push the car, as you get ready to exert that pressure and push that car, you're going to naturally do a reverse breath because it allows you to pull more strength into your body. And in a reverse breath, what happens is as you inhale, you actually pull your belly in to touch your spine, which is the opposite of the first thing we discussed when you inhale and your stomach goes out. Now you're inhaling, but your stomach goes in. You're making a girdle on your inhale. And then when you exhale, you push out and create your chi belt on your exhale. This is necessary in order to do what's called the inner work, which is where the true healing power in Qigong and Tai Chi and these other systems, it's in the inner work. And so what the inner work is, imagine you inhale, pull your belly button as flat as you can get it, because you can pull your belly further towards your spine inhaling than you can exhale. So you inhale and you really, really flatten that belly towards the spine. And then you're going to tighten those abdominal muscles to lock your abdomen into that position. So now when you exhale and try to push your belly out, your belly will not go out because your abdominal muscles are locked in that position. That greatly reduces the amount of space that your organs can go into when you drop the diaphragm down. So what it does is it puts a exaggeratedly, if that's a word, it puts an extreme tension on the organs that will not be there if the abdomen is allowed to expand. So your organs can't expand out your back. Now they can't expand out your front, and they're being pulled down from the top. So the only way for those organs to go is down out the bottom through your pelvic floor. But you tighten the pelvic floor and create a wall on your pelvic floor. Now your organs cannot escape down, back, forward, or up. So they get confined in an exceptionally small space, And that puts a very strong squeeze and massage on your organs. And that intense organ massage from the compression is supposed to happen every time you exhale while doing the practice. And so this is why we could be in a group with everyone doing Qigong together and everybody is nice and relaxed, but I'll be there sweating because the power in the Qigong is not from the waving of the hands and the simple visualizations. The true power is from the inner work. But you have to learn how to cultivate that because you have to learn how to use different muscles that you normally don't use. And you have to learn how to use them in conjunction at the right time and with the right pressure. So this is reverse breathing in order to do compression breathing, which in the Tao is called the inner work. And now you can isolate the organ you need to heal. Because since you're squeezing all of your organs into this tiny small spot, you can actually choose which part of your organ becomes the center of the compression. So if you need to heal your liver, you can compress the liver. If you need to heal your spleen or stomach, you can compress the spleen or stomach. If you need to heal your kidneys, you can compress those. You can actually differentiate which areas of your abdomen get the compression. And then once you can do that, there's a few more evolutions and steps of things that you can then do to heal that organ as it's being compressed. Both things you can do externally and things you can do internally.
Um, it's hard to add anything to that. Yeah, again, I'm humbled by just how potent and powerful the breath is. And I just want to encourage people to not be dissuaded because it is so seemingly simple and so seemingly available to us. This was done by design. It is a gift that has been bestowed upon us so that we can again have the best experience, the best time, the best ability at restoring equilibrium, balance, homeostasis whenever the body, the mind, and the spirit are not feeling aligned. So don't be fooled that just because, oh, it's breath and I didn't pay for it, that I couldn't utilize it and tap into it. I said just a few moments earlier how it bookmarks the beginning and the end of life. And so to think that for that period of time in between, whether you're fortunate enough to be alive, you know, 85 years, 95 years, 105 years, that breath is important. And it is absolutely a tool that is designed to restore peace, well-being, serenity, as well as removing and transporting toxic load, things that should not be living in our body for an extended period of time. I guess I will also just add that uh, both Brother Long and I have various different modalities that we like to utilize for breath. And some of them, will also help to bring on a more meditative state. Some of them will be, to help you activate the right side of the brain. We're very left brain hemisphere oriented, those of us living in the West, because our educational system is designed to keep us left brain operating so that we are cerebral, we're able to calculate, we're able to produce. But again, the breath can be utilized to tap into that right side. And that right side is oftentimes the yin, the more cooling, the more feminine. And please try not to place too much emphasis on the definitions of these words. They're just meant to show you how both sides are needed, right? So the yin side, the right side of the brain might be more creative, and the left side might be more yang and destructive. But those are not terms that we need to focus on applying emotions to. It's just to show you that both need to exist and both are necessary. And what if I were here to tell you that simply by activation of your breath correctly, you're able to tap into that yin, to that more cooling, more feminine. Whereas if you need it, right, and you need that yang, then again, your breath work can take you to that place where you can be more productive, more assertive, more fire like. One is not better than the other, both are absolutely necessary. And I'll just say, to add another little bit of anatomy for those again who are here because they enjoy anatomy or are interested in, corrective exercise and how to help improve the breath in order to be able to bring wellness back to the body or maintain wellness. And that is that the same breath that Brother Long was just speaking of, this inverse breathing, is it, Brother Long?
Reverse.
Reverse breathing. The reverse breathing is actually a tool that we also employ. So you can see how the East meets West, right? Because Brother Long is very, very well educated in more Eastern traditions. And although I have some of that, I'm also heavily trained in anatomy and biology. So I'll say that when I'm training people to perform better, i.e., through squats, Russian squats, deadlifts, etc., the correct form is actually applying this breath called the reverse breath, as Brother Long just explained to us. So this ability again to pull the belly button in, even as we're expanding and breathing out, does what for us? It actually again force closes the sacroiliac crest, which then brings stability to the pelvis and hips, which then stabilizes the spinal column, and then that stabilizes our shoulders, our neck, our head, and our jaw. Now, that's all very important when you're training, and especially important when you're training with heavy weights. So, a good trainer or health coach should be able to, again, explain that to you and train you appropriately. And part of these conversations that Brother Long and I are engaging in is to give you guys access to some of the information and some of the education that we've been fortunate enough to receive, and also to give you guys the opportunity to ask questions whilst we're on these lives. And if need be, you could even reach out to us individually for any further education and or tools that you may require. I will definitely include Brother Long's details in the description of all of these lives. Wherever you're seeing this, you're going to see his information and have an opportunity to reach out to him directly. But for today, if there's anyone here that wanted to ask any questions, we have maybe 1 or 2 minutes left, and we're happy to take a question or two. And please let us know if you are going to be asking a question, if you have a question specifically for Brother Long, who's with us, by the way, via the continent of Africa, and is blessing us with his time, given that it is much later in the day for him where he's at. So if you have a question for him, this would be a great time to pose it. And if not, put it in the comment section. I often will go through the comments, and I can certainly send those questions off to Brother Long, and then you'll be able to get in touch with him. And yeah, and we look forward to keeping this conversation going even off of this live. So we'll just give it a moment to see if anyone has any questions. Hold on, let me come out of this. We have a good amount of viewership, I have to say, on both Instagram and YouTube. So really grateful for everyone that tuned in today. And on that note, I don't know if you had any final words as we're waiting to see if anyone has anything that they want to ask us, Brother Long.
Yes, I would like to share a practice for those ready to begin the journey. You want to take something like a fingernail clipper, something of that nature, not anything electronic. And what you want to do is you want to lay down on your back and you want to place the fingernail clipper on your belly button. The entire fingernail clipper should be in your belly button and below it, nothing above your belly button. And then you're going to lay down and you're going to look at your belly button. You're going to look at the fingernail clipper. When you inhale, you're going to try to push the fingernail clipper up into the ceiling, and you're going to watch the area below your belly button. And that's the key. You have to learn how to breathe with the area below your belly button. So you inhale, you push that thing all the way up as far as you can into the sky. And when you exhale, you pull your belly button in to touch your spine, and you watch the fingernail clipper drop down into your body. And for some people, it'll just disappear. You won't be able to see it. And then when you inhale, you push it up into the ceiling. When you exhale, you pull it down into your spine. And you have to practice this type of breathing and get yourself accustomed to using those lower abdominal muscles for your breathing. And then that's going to lay the foundation for you to do more advanced healing practices in the future.
Yes, this is actually something that I guide through my yoga classes and my students as well, is the breath and how it is important to activate that lower abdomen. One of the things that I was able to correlate through my studies is that most people who complain of complain of back pain happen to complain of lower back pain. And part of the reason why there is so much expression in the lower back in the form of pain is because those muscles are actually innervated directly to the lower abdominal muscles. So the muscles that come, so it literally scoops in. If you imagine this being your lower back and then coming in towards the front, so going past the genitals up towards the lower abdomen, that connection, right? Those lower abdominal muscles connect to the lower back muscles, and that happens during gestation. So right after conception, that happens. So those muscles are highly correlated and innervated to each other. So in order to have a strong, stable lower back, a back free of lower back pain, exactly, yes. You want to initiate and activate the lower abdominals, and that requires strength training to some degree, practice, like as anything else. So I hope that everyone that has joined in today over here on TikTok, I see you guys on IG, I see you on the YouTube. I appreciate all of you coming through. I just want to give another shout out to Brother Long for joining me in this conversation series that we're beginning with. Hope you have found it informative. We have loads more topics to tackle with you all, loads more to share. And again, if you have questions, please reach out to me or reach out to Brother Long. His details will be in the description box. And if you are not able to get in touch with him, reach out to me and I'll put you in contact. But let's keep this conversation going. And those of you who have found this informative, if you would like to support this conversation, if you'd be so kind to like it and share it with your loved ones or anyone who's in need of any kind of healing and who is interested and keen on learning more about natural healing modalities and alternatives. If you've not noticed, the allopathic way of medicine is not working for many of us. And so perhaps it's time that we come back to nature, come back to some older, wiser traditions that have proven to be effective. After all, we wouldn't have gotten this far as humanity if they weren't working for us, because pharmaceuticals, for good or for bad, have only been around for so long. They're relatively new, right? And so we didn't get this far thanks to pharmaceuticals. And there's an opportunity for us to practice real wisdom when it comes to our bodies and healing ourselves by simply relearning these very old but very true and tried methods of healing. So again, if you found it beneficial, please support us by liking and sharing on all platforms. And again, thank you all for coming. We appreciate you, and we will see you next Sunday for another chat. Did you want to say anything else before we sign off?
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This is my first time on IG and my first time on TikTok. And maybe even my first time live on YouTube. So maybe this is the beginning of a new phase for me.
We hope. All right, everyone, have a good day or night wherever you are. And until next week, stay free. Well, get free and stay free. Brother Long?
I'm just shocked there were no questions. I was looking forward to the.
I'm sure they'll be coming soon. Sometimes, people have to work up to it. They can be a bit shy. But we've had a good amount of eyes and a good amount of people joining us. We appreciate everyone that's been here today. For the replay crew, shout out to you too. Enjoy the chat. We'll see you soon, everyone. Signing off. Bye.